Howdy folks, welcome back to World of Tanks with a mighty Jingles. We're back on the patch 8.4 test server, conducting previews of the new machines that are coming out in patch 8.4, the German light tanks, the British tank destroyers. Now it's very important that I stress that these are previews and not reviews, because you can't review a machine after only driving it for 2 or 3 games. It's impossible, you just don't know enough about the machine. So these are definitely previews, and there's another reason I say that is because this is a test server, and based on the results of the testing, changes can and will, and in the case of this thing, I bloody hope, get made to these vehicles. So anything I'm telling you in this preview of the 215b 183 is probably and hopefully going to be out of date before this thing reaches the live servers. So bear that in mind when I'm talking about this thing. Now I did talk about this thing in quite some detail in my 8.4 roundup of everything that's changing in 8.4 in my previous video, but I didn't really talk about much other than this stuff, high explosive squash head ammo, and this thing is more than just a device for transporting that ammo around the battlefield and delivering it to enemy tanks. There is armor, there is an engine, there's all sorts of other things that we need to look at to determine what this thing's going to be like, and that's the purpose of today's preview. So looking at hit points, 1960 hit points. That's actually on the lower end of the scale for tier 10 tank destroyers. It's sort of at the Russian end of the market there. It's more than the French, about the same as the Russians, not as much as the Americans, nowhere near as much as the Germans. But interestingly, it's actually less than the tier 9 British tank destroyer, the Tortoise, which has 2,000 hit points. So that's interesting. So you're actually losing health by going up a tier. Alright. It's a big old machine. It does weigh 60.7 tons, but as you'd expect, it's based on the chassis of the 215b Tier 10 British heavy tank. But it has a powerful 800 horsepower engine. So in a complete break with the established tradition of all the other previous British tank destroyers from Tier 5 up, this thing is actually reasonably quick. 34.3 kilometers per hour speed limit and 32-degree traverse speed. And the suspension seems really good. It certainly does not feel like a sluggish machine. Now, the armour of this thing is deceptive. On paper it says it has 256 at the front of the hull, 76 at the sides and rear, 256 at the front of the turret, 51 at the sides and rear. And while that is not technically a lie, there is 256mm of armour at the front of this thing. I know that 256mm of armour is this bit here. It may and probably also is this bit here, but it definitely is not that bit there. I don't know how thick the lower glacis is. I've seen various figures bandied around on various forums. I think the consensus appears to be about 150mm, but it's nowhere near as thick as this bit here. So frontal armour is alright in places as far as the hull's concerned. Now, it gets a bit more complicated when you look at the turret, because it says 256mm at the front of the turret. Well, alright, point to the front of the turret and tell me where it's 256mm thick. Well, this bit here, the gun mantlet? Yeah, probably. What about that bit there? Is that 256mm? Is that even the front of the turret? Yeah, of course it is, look. Well, alright. That could be the side of the turret. And that's only 51mm thick. What about this bit? Is that the side? Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, because it kind of looks a bit like the front from there. so I do not know, and without doing training room testing, I could not tell you which parts of this thing are 256mm thick at the front. So I guess the point that I'm making here is don't believe what you see written down on paper. And certainly do not ever rely on the armour of this thing to save you from getting killed, because it will let you down. Unless whoever's shooting at you is incredibly stupid, which you can expect to happen every now and then. Moving on. Obviously, yeah, side and rear armour, absolute garbage. This thing just, it's not a well-armoured machine, regardless of what you see in the stats. Now the turret, and the turret is interesting because it has a turret, but it doesn't have a turret. It's kind of like the T110E4, the American Tier 10 tank destroyer with the turret, because that thing can turn, but it can't turn all the way around it. It can only turn in a 180-degree arc, so it can turn the gun pointing out that way and pointing out that way and everything in front, but it can't go back here. Well, this isn't even as good as that. I think the firing arc, or the traverse arc of the turret, is about 45 degrees, which is still bloody good for a tank destroyer. I mean, I'm not actually complaining about that. I'm just bringing it to your attention that this thing is not really a turreted tank destroyer. Because if you look at the Tier 9 Tortoise, and we'll be covering the Tortoise in another video in the days to come, this thing definitely does not have a turret. It's a traditional tank destroyer with a gun mounted in the casement of the hull. But the gun traverse on that thing is as good, even though it doesn't have a turret, as this thing, which allegedly has a turret. So just bear that in mind. It's still bloody good gun traverse for a tank destroyer, but it doesn't really have a turret. View range 400 meters and 750 meter signal range. So yeah, really good view range. Standard tier 10, tier 8 and up signal range. So good stuff. But it is, after all, the ammunition of this monstrous gun that is getting everybody's knickers in a twist. And I did talk about it in some detail in the previous video, so I don't want to belabor the point too much and repeat myself too much, but there is something else that I would like to draw to your attention about this stuff, high explosive squash head. Well, actually, we'll look at the gun itself first, because the gun is really, really good, but it's not without its drawbacks. It's a 3.4 second aiming time. That is one of the worst aiming times in the game. There is artillery that has a faster aiming time than that. And 0.4 accuracy is hopelessly bad. So it's not all good news about this thing. It does have its drawbacks. But for a machine that can do 2,188 damage in one hit, I would bloody well expect there to be some drawbacks with that gun. So 0.4 accuracy and 3.4 second aiming time seems like a fair trade-off to me. The rate of fire is also very, very slow. It's even slower than the Jagdpanzer E100. Depending on crew skills, training, equipment fitted, you can get that reload down to about 26 seconds. But it's slow, and you will find yourself cursing the reload from time to time. But these are the drawbacks that you pay for being able to one-shot any Tier 9 tank in the game, and theoretically being able to one-shot a lot of the Tier 10 tanks in the game. Now, the ammo. Let's get the gun up again. There you go. Armor-piercing ammo, 310 penetration. Holy crap, that's good. 1150 average damage, which is also pretty good. In fact, I think that is the average damage that the Jagdpanzer E100 was initially doing in the first build of the patch 7.5 test server, and it got nerfed down to 1050. So what you're getting is 100 extra average damage than the Jagdpanzer E100 with armor-piercing ammo. The high explosive ammo only has 92 penetration, which is garbage, but 1750 average damage with the top end of 2188. So, but nobody's ever going to use that because 92 penetration. You're never going to penetrate. This is the stuff that is getting everybody excited. High explosive squash head ammo, 275mm of penetration, 1750 average damage. That's the gold premium ammo for this thing. And again, with the top end of 2188, which can one-shot kill a lot of the Tier 10 vehicles in the game. So what the hell? Now, I did, again, go over this in quite some detail in my previous video, but just to recap, it's high explosive squash head ammo. It's worth talking at this point about how the high explosive damage mechanics in the game are supposed to work. And I keep saying that when you fire a high explosive shell, whether it's high explosive anti-tank or high explosive squash head, I keep saying when you fire any kind of HE shell at a target and it hits, it will never bounce. And technically I'm correct, because that is the way the mechanics for HE are supposed to work. But we all know that bounces happen. Artillery drivers in particular will back me up on this. High explosive shells do not always explode when they hit the target. Sometimes you get bounces. It's very rare, but it does happen, and it's very bloody annoying. It's not supposed to, but it does happen. That aside, the way HE is supposed to work is like this. You fire at the target, and if it hits, it calculates whether or not it has enough penetration to defeat the armour. Now, HE, unlike armour piercing, and that includes armour piercing, composite, rigid, HE does not get a normalisation roll against the slope of the armour that it's hit. Armour piercing ammo gets, they keep changing the number of the normalisation, but I think at the moment it's about 10%. It gets about a 10% bonus against the angle of the armour, and then it calculates whether or not it has penetrated. If it still hasn't penetrated after the normalisation, then it bounces and does no damage. High explosive does not get the normalisation roll against the armour. It calculates penetration at the exact angle at which it has hit the armour, and if it fails to penetrate, it's supposed to explode on the armour and just do splash damage. If it penetrates, it goes right through and does full damage. 1750 average damage in the case of this gun. And that's why, with this stuff, you really, really need to be hitting a flat surface. Now, again, because of the way high explosive ammunition works, if it hits a module, it will explode on the module, probably wreck that module, and I'm talking about the tracks. If it hits a gun, if it hits a rangefinder, stuff like that. It will hit the module, explode, wreck the module, and then do splash damage because it's already exploded against the hull of the vehicle on the other side of the module. Now, the thing is, when you've got a gun that has a top-end damage of 2,188, splash damage on this thing is anything between 600 to 800 damage. That's the average damage roll of a penetrating full damage hit of almost every other Tier 10 tank destroyer in the game. So with this thing, even with the drawbacks of that gun, the fact that it isn't very accurate and takes forever to aim, all you have to do is hit the target, and you're going to do 600 to 800 damage even if you don't penetrate from a poorly aimed shot. Also, this stuff, the gold ammo, has 5.06 meter explosion range, so you don't even need to be that accurate in the first place. It's absolutely absurd. And I've been looking through at the other vehicles in the game and trying to find something that's like this machine to draw parallels to, and I couldn't find anything until I started looking at the artillery. And there is a vehicle in the game that is more like this than any other, and is this thing, the Object 261, the Tier 8 top tier Russian artillery piece. They even look vaguely similar, and basically in the 215b 183 what you have is one of these things with a slightly bigger gun. It's got a bigger gun than this thing, that does more splash damage than this thing. It's got a bigger splash radius with its high explosive squash head shell and its high explosive shell than this thing does, and does more damage and has more penetration and has a turret and has better armour. The only advantage this thing has is it goes faster. Look at the gun. Look at that. There you go. HE ammo, 102 penetration with its standard ammo, 1700 damage. So it doesn't even do as much damage as the 215b. Admittedly, with there we go, with its armour piercing ammo, it does have better penetration. Well, whoopee. But it does far less damage. And with its high explosive anti-tank ammo, it's still doing less damage and less penetration. So the 215b is basically, you're driving one of these buggers around the battlefield in direct fire mode, but with better accuracy, better aiming time, better penetration, more damage, armour, and better manoeuvrability. It's absolutely ridiculous. Oh, this thing has got to get nerfed. There's just no way they can put this thing through onto the live server in its current form. It's absolutely absurd. It's comical. It's a lot of fun to drive. It's far too much fun to drive. And I've been playing it with, with the premium ammo, because why the hell not? I can't see why anybody would use anything other than premium ammo on this thing. 1750 average damage, 275 penetration. And it's 14 gold or 5,600 credits per shot. Yeah. In fact, you know what? Let's have a game and I'll show you just exactly what I'm talking about. Well, here we go. My first ever game in this monster. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see if it really is as just ridiculously overpowered as I suspect. Usual disclaimers apply. This is only a preview. This isn't a review of the thing. test server, everybody's firing gold. Hell, I'm firing gold. Why not? I want to see how good it is, how ridiculously, stupidly overpowered it actually is. I am loaded with nothing other than high explosive squash head, premium ammo. This thing only carries 12 shots. I'm using premium consumables, tea and scones there. Here we go, tier 10 game on Sand River. Only one artillery on each side. That's unusual. So far my experience of the test server is you either get into a game with no artillery, or if there's any artillery there are 6 on each side. And as usual, tier 10 game. I mean, look at that poor guy in the ISU 152. Or the enemy AMX 1390. Just, oh. Speaking of the poor guy in the enemy 1390, and he's one-shotted. That was a lucky hit. It does take a long time to aim. This thing has a very, very long aiming time, even with 100% crew, vents, and a gun lane drive. The aiming time on this thing is very slow. So, you know, I have to mention the drawbacks of this thing as well. It's not all good news. Now, there's an AMX-50B who just lost almost all of his health in one hit. So, how many? There's what? The enemy team have 3 of these things, and we have 2 of them. Also, you know, I mean, test server. You're going to find, if you would look at the stats of any of these players, you'd probably find that most of them were playing tier 10s for the first time. And the highest tier vehicles that they have back on the live servers are like tier 5 or 8. So you have to bear all this sort of thing in mind when you're on the test server. So I'm moving up, but I'm keep checking my back because there is nobody up by B9 guarding the back door, and I'm very, very conscious of the fact that I could get shot in the back at any second because I was the only person up there. And all one-shotted. AMX-50 Foch 155 blattered. But we're losing tanks pretty badly over here. Somebody's going to have to step up and become a duty hero. Oh look, there's a full health 183. And he's just fired. Right, so I know he's got at least 26 seconds. At least 26 seconds before he can fire again. And he knows it too, and I don't know why he's just sitting there. There we go, straight through the lower glacis. And he's on 263 health. 1700 damage. That's an average damage roll in this thing when it penetrates. This 113 driver, he played a good game. Really, really good defensive game here with me backing him up. We lost just about everybody else on this side. There we go, he's just finished off the 183. Well done. Good target prioritisation. Now, they have an IS-7, a T110E4, oh, T57 heavy, and I just... oh, well, I didn't need to. Again, good play from that 113 driver. Now it's safe to go around. And again, keeping an eye on the left. Sorry, keeping an eye on the right side, just in case anybody did go around that back road up into the hills, try to get around us. But it turned out that I was, you know, being too cautious. None of them did. Yeah. Oh, hello, who's that? A Bat Chat on 71 health. Okay. Bat Chat on no health. And... oh, crap. Okay, I'm all alone here now. And we've got a T110E4 and an IS-7. Okay, and I'm not loaded, but he doesn't know that. And the IS-7 is... okay, we've basically got them caught in a 183 sandwich here. He fires, he bounces, he bounces. I'm going to have a quick look after I derp this guy and see where it was he shot me. And yeah, look at that. That's that point there. The 200 plus frontal armor this thing has is really only in that one spot there, which is exactly where he shot me. He could have fired anywhere else with that gun, penetrated and done full damage, but no, no, no. Right, well I was going to go around after that IS-7, but there's a T-62A in a completely useless position over there, but he could still fire flank shots into me, and what is this guy doing? I mean, really? I'm just sitting here waiting to reload. Thinking, okay, here we go, and gotcha. Now, and again, that IS-7 has got 3 tanks closing in on him. So I figure, well, I can leave him alone. He's not a problem. And I really don't want to expose my flank to this T-62A. And the IS-7, look at that, the IS-7's on low health. He's got 3 enemy tanks on him. Surely they don't need my help. And wait, and aim, and this is going to go into his tracks. It's not going to penetrate. But it does have a 5-meter explosion radius, even when it doesn't penetrate. So that's most of this guy's health gone. And he doesn't even try to relocate. And that IS-7 has managed to kill. Look at that. T-62A from there, and the IS-7. I mean, it was 3-on-1 on that bloody IS-7. The Batchad's done what he can. So we're just going to finish this guy off. And there we go. That one didn't even need to penetrate. With the amount of splash damage this gun does, it's going to kill him anyway. It's going to help the Batchad out. He's obviously reloading. He's probably reloaded by now. Yeah, there we go. Batchat played a great game. So in retrospect, I probably should have gone down there and helped out with that IS-7. But then I would have opened myself up to... Well, actually, no, I did the right thing. Definitely did the right thing. It was 3-on-1. They should have been able to kill that IS-7. He was on low health. And they did eventually kill him, but it took the Batchat driver coming over to do it. If I'd gone over to help, that T-62A would have been shooting at me instead of shooting at the guys who were killing the IS-7. So it ended up being the right thing to do. And this was a mistake. I should have gone after the T-57 Heavy. Because the Batchat is always going to catch the artillery before I did, so this cost me a 7th kill. There we go. Batchat. Yeah, Batchat played well. Can't argue with that. Good Russian player there. T-57 Heavy on 10 health, and yeah. Facing 3 tanks. And the other 215b gets the kill. Now, unfortunately, as I was trying to record this after-battle assessment, my game crashed, and this is actually mentioned in the patch notes, by the way. If you're using an NVIDIA GeForce graphics card with the latest drivers, you can expect crashes. There's something with this version of the test server build that just doesn't like NVIDIA graphics cards. So my GTX 680, and this is the first time it's actually happened while I've been playing on the test server, but you can expect it to happen from time to time. They're going to fix it, but at the moment, expect the occasional crash to desktop. So I can't show you the team scores, I can't show you the detailed report. This is all there is. But the results speak for themselves. 60,000 credits, 3,422 XP, Top Gun. Look at all the one-shot kills. And some of these guys I only hit once, but I did critical damage to multiple modules, killed multiple crew members with this ammunition, because it's high explosive. And even if you don't kill them, like that 215 that I shot and left on 200 health, even though I didn't wipe him out, I probably killed his driver, damaged his engine, crippled his ammo rack, because it's high explosive ammo. So it's all win with this thing. And of particular attention, look at the part where I was facing off against that T110E4. Well, I was waiting to reload, and even after I had loaded, I was still, trying to be a good player and trying to make sure that I hit a weak spot, penetrated, and did full damage. But the guy only had 500 health left. I didn't need to. All I had to do was hit him, and the splash damage from this thing will one-shot kill him when you're on that low health. So it's just a big I win button. It's so incredibly troll. There's no skill required whatsoever when you're driving this machine and firing this ammunition. I did not need to hit a weak spot to kill that guy. All I had to do was plant a shell anywhere on him, and he was dead. And in fact, that's what I ended up doing. He was at the maximum limit of my gun traverse, and he was going to get around the side, so I just pulled the trigger, didn't need to hit anywhere in particular, and it killed him. And that is what is wrong with this machine. It's just a license to print money and sell gold ammunition. So, there you go. The FV215b 183 British Tier 10 tank destroyer. I guess if I had to sum it up in one sentence, that sentence would be, no fucking way. Are you on crack? No. Just no. Absolutely no chance. I mean, it's not without its disadvantages. The armour isn't very good. The gun takes forever to aim. It's not very accurate. But with that ammo, it doesn't need to be accurate. It's a 5.06 metre explosion range, for Christ's sake. You can still miss and kill. It's just absurd. Just forget it. No way. If they had purposefully gone out of their way to invent a vehicle that had no purpose other than to sell gold ammunition, they couldn't have made a better design choice than this thing, because that is basically all it is for. Oh... mark my words, this thing will get nerfed. I don't know how. It's talk about power creep. They've got to be setting themselves up for such a fall by even thinking of marketing something with a gun that big. How is anything else supposed to compete? Oh, yeah, but the Object 268 has got twice the rate of fire. Yeah, but this thing only needs to hit you once. The rate of fire doesn't matter. Just make sure you've got somebody with you, protect you from being rushed, and profit. This thing is just absurd. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little preview of the FV215b 183 British Tier 10 tank destroyer. And, get yourself on the test server. Have a go for yourself. See what you think. See if you agree, see if you disagree. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, take care on that battlefield, and I'll catch you next time.